Hey everybody, and welcome to Age's Cozy Crochet Corner, where today in the corner we're going to be doing colorful cardigans. So we're going to get right to the table with this one, working on a size small. I do have sizes extra small, small, medium, large, 1X and 2X, and all of those numbers will be given to you throughout the video so you can build this piece with me. Enough said, let's get right to the table. Hey everybody, and so we've made it to the table, and I wanted to show you, and I'll name all the colors I'm using to make this cardigan. So let's begin there. I'm using different types of yarn because I wanted this color scheme, and I didn't have it all in one particular brand. So as long as you're using a medium 4 worsted weight yarn, that's what I work all of these cardigans in. It's fine if you use different kinds to get the color scheme that you want. So I'm using Caron 1 pound, and this one is medium gray mixed. And I'll be using Caron 1 pound, and this is peach and red heart super saver, and this one is persimmon and khaki, and this one is impeccable and yarn by Loops and Threads, and this color is, I always forget this color's name, Lippy Rose Bonbon. So I'm using all these colors, and I will be bringing them in this order because this one's darker, then I'm gonna do this one, then this one, and I may bring the gray in between there. Don't know yet. I'm kind of just gonna fill it out how I want to do it. But yeah, this is the yarn, and I make them all in medium 4 worsted weight yarn. I'm gonna start pulling these out of here, and I'm gonna start with this one. We will be using the 5mm hook. I use 5mm hook for all of these. The only thing we need to know about yarn usage. So I'm making a small on camera today. So what I'm going to be doing is in the description box, I will put I will put the yarn usage. I may round up a little bit just to make sure that you have kind of an accurate amount because I'm using different yarns. I might use more of this than I use of the Caron 1 pounds because they're bigger. I'm probably not going to use all of that at all. So I'll put a nice round number of how much yarn you'll need for the small. For the extra large, I'm going to put a nice round number of how much we need for the extra large in the description box, and any other size from there you can gauge if you need more or you need less, because my yarn usage is kind of wacky because I'm using so many different kinds of yarns. um, Also, the only other thing is because we're working in different sizes, I will always put up when we're changing from what we're doing on the screen for what size you need to do what action, and numbers. Okay, so for this one, the small, we're going to be chaining 106 plus 1. Okay, so for all the other sizes, this is what you need to chain for that size. So I'm going to start chaining my 106, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So I have my chain of 106 plus 1. All of them have the plus 1, and that's because we're going to be going into the second chain from the hook. So whatever the number is before plus 1, that is the number that you should have all the way up on your project. okay? So we're going to yarn over, and we're going to be doing this majority of the project except for the borders and half doubles, okay? So we're going to yarn over and into the second chain from the hook. We're going to go in, grab our yarn, come up. We have 3 loops on our hook. We're going to yarn over and take all 3 off. And again, yarn over. We're going to go into the next chain from the hook, grab our yarn, pull up. We have 3 loops on our hook. We're going to take off all 3. So we're just going to make half double all the way down this row. Okay, so I have my chain. I've gone through my chain and I've established my first row. I have 106 half doubles in this row. I'm going to chain 1 as we will at the end of every row and turn our work. Now that chain 1 does not count for anything. It's just going to help us keep a straight row. Well, not a straight row, but it'll keep all of our lines straight going up. So I've chained 1, turned my work, and I'm going to go right back into that first stitch and make a half double. Now I'm going to half double all the way down this row as well. And when I get to the end of this row, I will chain 1 and turn my work and start again into the first stitch. Now, before we get to our armhole, where we're going to be making our armhole, we're going to have 50 rows. Now, if you decide that you want your piece longer than that, then this is where you're going to add that space. So instead of making 50 rows, if you want your piece longer than that, then you will just add on more rows before we get to the arm. Okay, so when I get to 50 rows, I will make sure I measure it for you guys so you guys can see how much that's going to be, how much that comes up to, so you can determine if you want to put more rows on the on to make it longer. Now, I'm going to be switching colors, and when I do my first switch of colors, I'm going to come in just to show you how to switch your color. Other than that, we'll be going to 50 rows, and you can do your color divide up however you would like. Okay, so I have gotten to row 18. I'm on my 18th row now, and I'm ready to change colors. So I want to show you how I change colors. So before I get to the last stitch on the row right before my color change, so my next color row, I want it to be gray. So when I get to the last stitch in the row before, I want to yarn over. I'm going to go inside of that last stitch. I'm going to grab my yarn and pull up. And I have 3 loops on my hook. Now before I finish that stitch, which I only have to yarn over and pull through all 3. Before I finish that, I want to add on my new color. So here's my new color. I want to make a loop, like an almost knot, and add that on my finger. Then I want to add it on my hook. Okay. and I want to use this color to finish off this stitch. So I'm going to drop the pink, well not, yeah, pink behind me, and I'm going to finish this stitch with the gray. I'm going to pull this down a little bit. So now my gray is what's on my hook. I want to chain one and turn my work, and then into the first stitch I go in with my gray. So that is how I change my colors throughout this whole project. So the next time I want to change colors, the row right before, I'm going to start that stitch. But before I pull through my final loops, I want to come in with my new color, add it on my hook just as I just did, and pull that through my 3 hoops on my hook to end off the stitch. And then I keep going on, and of course later on go come back and weave this in. Oh, and we cannot forget that once we have added on our new yarn and we're finished with the last color, we just cut that, and that becomes part of what we weave in later on as well. So I'm gonna probably change colors a few more times before I get to my 50th row. But from here on, I'm going to go to my 50th row, and I'll come back in and we'll look at our piece then. Okay, I have gotten to the end of my 50 rows, and I also measured it, and I bring in a measurement of 22. So the 50 rows for me comes in at 22 inches. So, you know, that bit of information if you want to add more to your bottom. Now, this piece is, we're going to be working this in one entire piece. So this is going to come in right up under the arm. Now, our piece is going to fold over as so. So this is going to be the front side, and this will be the back. So now we just have to build the upper portion of our sweater, as well as leave spaces for under our arm. So we'll be working this top section in 3 separate pieces. Now what we need for the sides is going to be the same. What we do on one side, we will do on the other, the same amount of stitches, and then there'll be the back side. We'll be leaving a portion unworked for our armhole, okay? So this is a small, and I have not cut my yarn off here because I'm going to continue on with this same color. So for the small, for instance, this is going to be 22. So we're going to work 22 stitches, and we're going to work up 14 rows. We're going to skip 6 stitches, and I have these marked for the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and the 6th one here. So we're going to skip these 6 stitches. We're going to then work over the next 50 stitches and build that up 14 rows. We're going to skip 6 more stitches, and these will stay unworked. And here we're going to do 22 stitches, and we're going to build that up 14 rows. Now for different sizes, it will be different. It will be different how many you will go in. So your sides, you're going to go in whatever size you're making, you're going to go in that amount of stitches, and then build that up for as many rows as you need to for that side. For whatever it tells you, depending on what size you're working on, you're going to skip that amount of stitches. It'll be marked as open stitches, and those are stitches you're not going to work over. And then the back will be this portion, like the 50 I just said, we're going to work over the back. And then it will say open stitches for that size, and you'll leave those stitches open just like here, and then side, and that's the amount you'll work for the rest. And again, all of it you'll work up the amount of rows that you need to work that side. Okay, so now that I know, we all know what we have to do, how many we have to work across, I'm going to chain one and turn my work. Now, if you are not working the same color, then you, as the previous row, then you know how to switch colors. Me, I'm going to work this color out for the rest of this. So I'm just going to go down my next 22 stitches. And again, I already have it marked. If you don't have stitch markers, just use a different color yarn than what you're working with and tie it through the space. And we're going to be working this just like we worked the rest of the piece. We're going to be going down as far as we need to, chaining one and turning our work. So I've gotten to my 22nd stitch, which is here. Going to go in there, chain one, and turn my work. Go right back into the first stitch. And go all the way back down, 22 stitches, chain one, turn my work, and keep going up until I have 14 rows here. Now, when I finish my 14 rows here, I'll skip these 6 stitches and I'll start here. And I'll go all the way down till I get to my 50, chain one, and work that back and forth 14 rows. And when I'm done, I'll start here and work my way down these 22 stitches and chain one, go up and work that up 14 rows. The only thing you have to remember is I started this way. So when I start this way here, I want to start the exact same way. Because as you see, when we turn our work, you see the stitches look a little different. It's just one facing one way, one facing the other way. So I want to keep that going in the same direction, so all of the top pieces are all going in the same direction. So if you need to, mark that off so you know that this side is the side in which you started with. A little. So I started going this way, so I'm aware. I'm just going to take a piece of yarn and simply tie it this way, which lets me know that this is the side that I want to start on when I start here and when I start the 22 rows, 22 stitches on the other side. So I know this is the side I want to start on. Since we'll be going back and forth, And you don't want to have to figure it out. It's just, you know, you see that, you start on that side. So I'm going to do all 3 sections and go up 14 rows. And again, for whatever size you're doing, you're going to go up the amount of rows it tells you to. And we'll come back in and we'll close off the top and start work on our arm. Okay, so I am done. I have built up my 14 rows and 3 sections. So your piece should look just like this, with the open spaces here and here. Those will become our arms and our back. And I'm just going to take one of the front pieces and I'm going to fold it over. And I'm going to take the other side and fold that over too. Okay. And so this is how it should look with a little piece hanging out right here and here. Now, if you remember my little piece I put here, and that was to know which side I wanted to start on when I started each section. I'm going to make this side my front side. So with this closed like this, this is now my inside of my sweater. And now we just want to connect down both of our sides. Now we just want to connect down both of our top pieces. Okay. So all we're going to do is we're going to enter the first stitch here and the first stitch in the back. Now for me, I had 22 in my side pieces that are now in the front. So I want to connect down 22 pieces and 22 stitches in the front with 22 stitches in the back. So I'm going to get my yarn matching the same color that I ended with, my peach. I'm going to bring in my peach. And I'm going to place this on my hook and pull it through. Chain 1, and I'm going right back in to the same 2 pieces from the front to the back, and I'm going to make a single crochet. And I'm just going to continue matching up. This is the second stitch, and I want to match it with the second stitch from the back. Grab my yarn and make a single crochet, and the third stitch in the front with the third stitch in the back, bring it up and make a single crochet. And I'll be doing this all the way till I get to the end of my 22 stitches in the front. And I want to make sure we do not skip any stitches, because then that would decrease the amount of stitches we have in the middle, or increase it if we, depending on if we get it wrong. Now once I have that all the way down, I'm going to take my scissors, cut my yarn, grab my yarn and pull it through. Pull it tight. Now I want to do the same thing on this side, but I like to start in the corner to make sure I match all the stitches going down. So I'm going to turn this on the opposite side and place and the first stitch here and the first stitch in the back, and add it down 22 stitches. So whatever stitch amount you have in your front, that is the amount you want to go. So I made it to my last stitch. Cut my yarn again, pull it through, and let's turn it back around to the front. And we see that we have connected both of our sides, and we have stitches available in the middle. So I'm gonna now turn this on the correct side. For the rest of the piece, we will be working on the correct side. Now we're going to work on our arms, and there you see we have created this lovely armhole. I can now take out my little stitch markers. All right. So before we start work on the arm, I'm just going to simply explain the arm, and then I'm going to give you the numbers for all of them so you can kind of work it out with me. So for each one, we have a different amount of stitches that we have to place all the way around. Whatever amount of stitches we have, and for this one, it's 50 stitches. So we'll be doing 50 half doubles all the way around the small. So where the join area is, which is right here, if I have a number like 50, I'm going to break that in half to 25 and 25. So I know I need to place 25 stitches on this half if I start right in the middle, and 25 stitches on that half. And that makes it easier to think about when placing these comfortably all the way around, because you don't want more stitches bunched up here than you have over here. So no matter what the number is, you want to just break it in half. If it's uneven, then just place one stitch more on either side. But that's the way I like to do it. That way all of our stitches sit comfortably all the way around. So past that, we're going to be doing 2 rows of that amount of stitches, and then we will be doing decrease rows. Now our decrease rows are worked in every other row. So we'll do 1 row with 2 decreases in it, and then the next row will be a plain row of half doubles. And then we'll do another row of decreases and another row of half doubles. We will do 6 decrease rows in total with a half double plain row in between every decrease row. And I like that because it kind of brings it in naturally instead of just all at once. Okay, so before I show you how to do all of these rows, I'm going to show you the numbers and what you want to work down for every size, and the amount of rows that we'll be doing for every size. And the row amount is a suggestion. That's pretty much the amount that I make for all of my sweaters in the different sizes. But if you want more or less in your arm, depending on how wide your long your arm is, then you'll just make more. But we will be putting on a 3-row border when we're done. Okay, so again, I need to place 50 all the way, 50 half doubles all the way around my small. I also can remove this because I know this is my front side now. It's in the way. So no matter again what your number is, I want to look from my join area, and I'm going to place 25. So I want to break my number in half to make it simpler for me. So I have 6 stitches that I skipped here. Okay, so we want to add our yarn on right at the third, 1 2 3, whatever that middle section is for you. Now remember, if this bottom flat is an uneven number, then you're just going to start wherever you would like, but it's just to help make sure I get 25 here, and when I start on the other side join, I'll be able to get 25 here. But if your number is uneven, you just work it out and put one more over to the other side. It's fine. So I'm going to add my yarn on. I want to chain 1, and then I want to go back inside that same spot, grab my yarn, and make my half double. And I'm going to just work over that a little bit. So, and 3. Now we want to make sure we go through this space right here, and this space is where our my row of 14 started out from. So we want to make sure we go through that space as well. Now as far as working on the sides of stitches, I just try to map them out so I get the number of stitches that I need. And sometimes I have to restart and do it again. I'm going to try to get 25 all the way around here. When placing them down, you just want to make sure that you're going through 2 loops, okay? You want to make sure you're going through 2 loops. Okay. Now let me see how many I have so far. This is 3, 6, 9, 10. So I have to place 15 more before I get to my join area. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, and 25. And my join area is right there. So you see, I kind of nailed it on my first try, which is cool. So just to give you a little up close of how that looks. So you're just going to go around placing them all the way around. So whatever your number is, continue on and get your number, and I'll meet you back at the beginning. Mm-hmm. 23, 24, 24 and 25. So I was able to go all the way around yet again and make my mark. So now that I'm back at the beginning, when we get to the beginning, we want to slip stitch into that first half double. I'm gonna grab my yarn. Oh wait, I'm gonna go back in, grab my yarn, and pull it through and complete my circle. Now I only chain up one. To hold for my first stitch, I chain up one, and then I'm going to go back in and make a half double. Some people like to chain up two and let that chain two stand for your first half double. If that's your way, then of course feel comfortable doing it. I'm going to make it the way I like to make it, which is I'm going to chain up one and I'm going to turn my work. And you always want to turn your work so you're going back in the direction that you just worked, okay? So it's kind of like we're working from the inside of it because we'll be going this way. So once I chain one and turn my work, that very first half double that we just slip stitched into, I'm going to go back into there and I'm going to make a half double. Okay. And now I'm just going to make sure I have 50, and I'm just going to go around, and my second row is going to be the number in which I'm supposed to start out with. So no matter what size you're doing, whatever number you're starting out with, your second row should be that number as well. So I'm going to go around and do my 50, and I'll meet you back at the beginning. So I've gotten back to the beginning where I started with, and I want to go into this half double and slip stitch here. Okay. Now I'm going to chain one and I'm going to turn my work. Okay. And now I want to go right back into that same half double I just slip stitched into. I want to go right back in there and place a half double. Okay. So now my next stitch, 2 stitches, I'm going to decrease. So after your 2 rows of whatever your number around is, you're going to start your decrease rows. So you're going to decrease, and then you're going to have a plain row of half doubles. Decrease, plain row of half doubles. Decrease, plain row of half doubles. You're going to do 6 decrease rows. Once you get to your 6th decrease row, with having placed a row of half doubles in between, you'll now carry on with the amount of rows stated or as you would like. So we're going to decrease 2 times on every decrease row. We're going to decrease in the first 2 stitches, and then we're going to decrease in the last 2 stitches. The first stitch will always be the standing half double crochet in our first stitch. So to decrease, what we want to do is go into our second stitch, grab our yarn, pull up. We're going to go immediately into the next stitch, grab our yarn, pull up. We have 4 loops on our hook. We're going to yarn over and take all 4 off. And then we're just going to go all the way around until we get to our last stitch, making our half doubles. Okay, so I've come to my last 2 stitches in this row. You see them there, 1 and 2. And we're going to place another decrease there. So we're going to yarn over. We want to go into this stitch grab our yarn and pull up, go immediately into the next one, grab our yarn and pull up, 4 loops on our hook. We're going to yarn over and we're going to take off all 4. So what we've done is decrease in the the second and the third stitch and the last 2 stitches. So we've eliminated 1 stitch here and 1 stitch here. Total, we lose 2 stitches on every decrease row. So I'm gonna now slip stitch into the first half double that I did. Chain 1, gonna turn my work. And now I'm going to be working back the way I just came, because now we change directions. And I'm going to yarn over and into the first half double that I just slip stitched into. I want to go inside there, grab my yarn, pull up, and make another half double. Okay, so that holds for that stitch. We're going to go into the next stitch. And we're going to start making half doubles for this whole entire row. Gets nothing but half doubles. Okay, so I've come all the way back around to my beginning. I'm going to slip stitch into the top of the half double that I started with. Chain 1, and I'm going to turn my work. So we had our decrease row and now a row of plain half doubles. I'm going to show you the decrease row one more time and then we'll carry on the rest of the arm. So again, we're going to make a half double into the first half double that we slip stitched into, and we're working back the way in which we came. So the first 2 stitches here and here, we're going to start with our decrease. We're going to go into one, pull up, going to go into the other, pull up. We have 4 loops on our hook. We're going to take off all 4, and then we're going to continue all the way around, making half doubles until we get to the last 2 stitches in this row. Okay, so I've come to my last 2 stitches in that row. I'm going to yarn over. I'm going to go through the first one, grab my yarn, pull up, go right into the last one, grab my yarn, pull up, 4 loops on my hook. I'm going to yarn over and take off all 4. Slip stitch into the first half double we created, chain 1, and turn our work. And now this row is going to be a row of simply half doubles. We're going to start by going and making a half double into the where we just slip stitched into, and go all the way around. Now for the arm, it will slightly start to come in. You can see a little bit of that happening now. It's going to be a very natural come in. If you are a counter and say I started with 50, I had 2 rows of 50. When I got to my 3rd row and I decreased, then I had 48 on this row. So that meant my next row of half doubles only would be 48. And then I decreased again. So by the end of that row, I had 46. So that means this row that I'm doing now with half doubles only on it will be 46. So every time you do a decrease row, you lose 2 stitches. So that helps you count on out if you need need to count on out. From here on, we will finish, make sure we have 6 rows of decrease, which means we're going to lose 12 stitches at the end of that row, which is row 13. Row 14 on, we'll just be doing half doubles. Now, if you decide to bring yours in more, you can totally do that just by doing more decrease rows, but always placing a row of half doubles in between it. And we're going to work that all the way out, and then we're going to put a border of 3 rows on it. So I'll come back in when we get to the border and we'll work that out. Okay, so I have finished my arm, and you see this is where we made all the decreases. All my decreases were done in peach, and where we did the decreases, and once my decrease row stopped and my decrease last one was right here, then I just carried it on all the rest of the way, getting my 41 rows all the way down. Okay, so that's how that went. And like I said, you see how it decreased. If you want it to decrease more, then you would just place that more. Or if you want more space here and you want to carry out those first 2 rows longer before you start your decrease, then of course you can. That would just make this area more wider, and then your decrease will come in wherever you want it to. But as long as you know how to do it, you can manipulate and change that up any way you see fit. So now that I'm at my last row, I want to begin with borders. Everything else, except for our pockets, is done. So I want to come in, and I ended off that one. I have one last stitch to end off. So I want to come in and go into my next stitch and pull up, and then I'm going to bring in my gray. I'll now be showing you how to work all of the borders. So I want to add my yarn on here and pull that through, which switches my color. Slip stitch and chain 1. Now we're still going to be turning our work here. And before I go on, I wanted to show you the way I do it. This is how it comes out with the change up, okay? Just wanted to show you how it looks at the seams. And I like my seams like that. That's why I do the half double and then go right back into that half double and work that. So we're going to turn our work. And we're going to go right back into the spot where we just slip stitched, that half double right there. We're going to go inside there, and we're going to place a double crochet. Now my whole border will be worked in double crochets. So a double crochet is you go inside the next stitch, pull up. You have 3 loops on your hook. You're going to yarn over and take off 2. Yarn over and take off the last 2. So we'll be doing that all the way around for our first row. So we're going to go all the way around till we get back to where we begin. Okay, now I've gotten back around to where I began. So now I'm going to slip stitch into the top of that first double crochet. I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to turn my work again. So I want to place a double crochet right back into the double crochet that I first started with. And now I want to begin front and back posts. Now it does not matter if you start with a front post or a back post. I'm just going to start with a front post, which is going to push this stitch forward. So I'm going to yarn over, and I'm going to go behind that double crochet, grab my yarn, pull it back up, and make another double crochet. Now I'm going to yarn over, and then the next stitch I want to push this back. So I'm going to go in front of it, okay? grab my yarn, come back out, and make a double crochet. Now we're going to be alternating for the rest of this row, front and back posts. And again, it doesn't matter which one you start with, just as long as you're alternating back and forth. Okay. So again, I'm going to go behind this one to push it forward. Make my double crochet. And the next one, I want to go in front of it. Come back out and make my double crochet. So I'm going to go all the way around like that. Okay, so I've gotten back to the beginning. I want to slip stitch into that first double crochet. And chain one. Now, usually we turn our work, but I'm going to work on the same side going back around. So I'm going to go right into that double crochet that I just slip stitched into and make another double crochet. Now we've already established front and back posts. The only thing we want to do now is just continue to keep up with that pattern. So I have a front post here and it's pushed out, so I want to go behind it to keep it pushed out. And I have a back post that's pushed to the back, so I want to work another back post to keep that pushed back. And we're just going to go around this last row to make sure we keep up with the pattern we've already established. Now, if you want more rows on your border, then just add more rows on your border, or less, then just put less. So I have gotten back to the beginning. I'm going to slip stitch one last time into the top of the double crochet in which we started with, and then I'm going to cut my yarn and just pull that through. So our arm is out the way. Still the same way we put this ridge border on here, we're going to put it on the bottom of our piece and around the inside of our piece, around the neckline from the bottom all the way around the neck and back to the bottom. The only thing different that we'll be doing is on our last row here, we did not turn our work. When we do the border at the bottom and around, we will be turning our work on all the rows. Okay, let's look at the bottom of our piece, and I'm still using my same gray. And this is the outside of my sweater facing me. So here we should have the foundation chain where we first started. So we want to start into that first stitch and add our yarn on. And then go right back in and make a double crochet. And we'll be double crocheting down this whole foundation chain all the way until we get to the opposite end of our work. Okay, which is the bottom of the front side on the other side. So we want to make sure we're going through 2 loops. So we're going to go right into this stitch here, pretty much at the base of our half doubles. And this whole first row is going to be nothing but double crochets. Okay, so I'm coming up to the end. Once we're done placing all of our double crochets at the bottom of our work, we want to chain 1 and turn our work. Now with the border, again, this is the row where we're going to establish our front and our back posts. But there's 2 places that we will not be putting front and back posts, and that's in the first stitch, and that'll be in the very last stitch. So in those stitches, we'll just be placing a double crochet right on top of the double crochet from the previous row. So our first stitch and our last stitch on all our border rows will be a double crochet. So again, I'm going to start with doing my front post. So I'm going to yarn over, go behind this double crochet and make another double crochet. And then I'm going to work in front of this one and make a double crochet. And then I'm just going to keep alternating that all the way to the end of the row. And then in the last stitch, I'll be placing a double crochet. Now for our borders, we're going to be putting 4 rows on total of our border. So when we get to the last stitch, we'll chain 1, turn our work, place a double crochet in the first stitch, and then we're going to keep up our front and back posts. So when we look at this on the opposite side, once we get to that side and we look at it this way, if we have a front post, then we'll be making a front post. If we have a back post, we'll be making a back post. Okay, so no matter which way you look at it, if it's a front post and pull forward, then you'll be going behind it. And if it's pushed back, then you'll be going in front of it. Okay, so we're going to establish the front and back post here. Always making sure you alternate. And when we get to row 3, we will just make sure we keep front post, back post, and row 4 the same. So I'm going to finish my border for the bottom and we'll come in and we'll work the border around our neckline. Okay, so I have finished my bottom border, and that's 4 rows right there. Now I'm going to turn my work to the side, and this is the front. You see, this is the neck. We're going to be starting here, working our way all the way around the neckline and back down and ending here. We will chain 1 and turn our work for the border around as well. We're going to make sure we put 1 double crochet here, just like we did down here. This is always a double crochet here and always a double crochet here. We'll do the same thing. We're going to begin here, so this will always be a double crochet, and we will end here. This last stitch will always be a double crochet. Now we're working on the sides of all around our whole piece. And we're going to be putting 4 rows on, just like we did the arm and just like we did the bottom. So I just want to help you establish where you're placing your hook, and then we'll be left to put that border on. So I want to start right here at the end. add my yarn on, chain 1, and go back in the hole and place a double crochet. So once I get my double crochet there, and both of these sections, I do not want to put more than 6 double crochets in this area. So that's 1, 2, and I'll say right here is 3, 4, 5, and here 6. Now I don't have a definite place to put these, but I just want to map them out. Now you'll find that there are more spacing here in between your double crochets than there should be when you're placing them here. The reason why we only want to keep a limited amount of double crochets here is because we don't want it to drag down. We want it to have a slight pull. If you feel more comfortable, and you've done this before and you feel more comfortable putting more, you can. But we'll be doing front and back posts just like we did here, so you really won't recognize that. But I want to make sure this going here is kind of tight and stable to keep my work from hanging down here. Okay, if that makes sense. So now we're just going to place, making sure that you go through 2 pieces of yarn. You see 1 and 2. You don't want to be hanging on 1 piece of yarn, and you just want to go creating your own path. All the way up and around. Your piece. So I'm just going to keep making my way all the way up and all the way around. Just kind of set my own path. Let me lay it flat. And this is kind of what it looks like right now. And again, we'll be doing front and back posts. If you can see where this one comes down just a little bit more, I try to always hit that one. And the reason why I try to always hit that one, because I want to make it look even. I don't want one to be all the way here and then one's not. So where I'm placing that, it's pretty much right here. I'm going to show you when I get to it again. It's when it looks like that. That is technically, if this was turned the correct way, that would be the top of our half doubles. So when I reach that stitch that looks like that, I always want to go right in between there. I don't think about that one at all. Everywhere else, I'm just placing as nicely as I can. And again, I reached one again. And again, I've reached one again, so I want to go inside. And again, I've reached one again, so I want to go inside there. And that's the only definite place that I go inside as I'm going up. And as you see, like I said, that's that one. That's one. That's one. Everywhere else, I'm just nicely placing it along. So that's all I have to say about that. Once we finish going all the way up and around with that, and we'll go all the way around the shoulders. Do not forget that when we come up here, we want to go in all of these would-be stitches, okay? And when I do the back, because we only have a few back stitches that we left open, okay? These stitches right here, we only have a few of them left open. Because they're fairly larger, like this one right here, I want to go into each one of these 2 times. So when we come up around the back of the neck part, 2 times. This one gets 2 double crochets, 2 double crochets, 2 double crochets, 2 double crochets, and all the way to right here. And then you'll come back down around and just do 1 double crochet in each stitch. But these ones are going to get 2 double crochets. Everything else is just like the bottom border. We'll establish our front and back posts with 1 double crochet on either at the first stitch and at the last stitch. Once we establish our double front and back posts, then we'll come back in and keep that going for 2 more rows. So we'll have a total of 4 rows and our border around here as well, unless you decide to do more. Okay, so go ahead and complete your border, and it's going to look and function just like this bottom one did. Okay, so now I have finished going around my whole piece with double crochets, and then I came back in and did my row where I established my front and back posts, and then my row where I followed it up, just keeping in that pattern, and I did that 2 times, so I have 4 rows on. And as you see where I told you to go at the top, we wanted to go twice in each one of these stitches at the top and the back of the neck. So everything is done, and even where I said to do 6 stitches in this area and they were a little spaced out, you see that you can't tell that they were spaced out. So the only thing now we have to do is make our pockets. So let's make our pockets now. Okay, so I want to begin doing the pocket with you. So with the pocket for my extra small and small, I always do the pocket with 18 stitches and 18 rows up. Okay, now for the larger sizes, I do 20 half doubles, and then we're going to go up 20 rows. All right, so that's the only difference. So I always want to +1 in my foundation chain. So if we're doing the smaller sizes, we're putting 18 plus 1, which is 19. If we're doing the larger sizes, we're putting 20 plus 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19. So once we have our desired amount in our foundation chain, we're going to yarn over. We're not going to go into the first chain from the hook. We're going to go into the second, and we're going to place a half double. We're then going to half double all the way down this chain, and by the end of it you should have 18 if you're doing the smaller sizes, and 20 if you are making a pocket for one of the larger sizes. And it's also about what you would like. If you would like a larger pocket, make a larger pocket. If you would like your pocket smaller, then make a smaller pocket. It all starts with the foundation chain. Now our pocket is super simple because our pocket is going to work up just like the rest of our sweater did. You're going to change colors if you're changing colors whenever you want to. And we're going to be working it in exactly the same way. So we'll be chaining one when we get to the end of our work and turning and going right back into that first stitch and place a half double there and a half double all the way down. Every row should be the same as our first row. We do not gain or lose any stitches after our first row. So I'm going to create my pocket to match my sweater. I'm actually going to use all the same colors that I use for my sweaters. Now, depending on the row count, you have tons of space to play around with your colors however you want to do them, or if you want to do a solid pocket. Now, the only thing is when we get to that last row, I want to put a small border on the top of that row. Do not forget about that last stitch. So when we get to, for this size, when I get to row 18, I'm going to come back in and we're going to do something different on the last row. And if you're doing the larger one, it'll be row 20 for you. That last row, we'll be doing just something different on the top to create a small border. All right, so we're going to go ahead and work this up to row 18. Well, I'm going to work through my 17th row and I'll come back in on row 18 and show you how I'm going to place a small border on top of it. So I've finished my 17 rows for my extra small pocket. If you're doing one of the larger sizes, then you're stopping at your 19th row. So I'm going to go into that first stitch and I'm going to place another half double. Now I'm going to put a small border on the top of here. So I'm going to be doing front and back posts just like we did for the rest of the border, but I'm going to be working them in half doubles. So I'm going to yarn over and I'm going to go into this stitch and go behind it and exit out the next stitch. Grab my yarn, pull through and make a half double. And then I'm going to go into the same stitch that I just worked in. And I'm going to go in front of the next one and come out in the next stitch. Grab my yarn, pull through and make my half double. Again, I'm going into the stitch I just came out of and I'm going to go behind that stitch and I'm going to make a half double. And I'm going to continue that all the way through. So I'm going to go in this one and go in front of the stitch, going in the same stitch that I just finished with, and coming out the next one, pull through and make a half double. So I'm just going to continue alternating that. Again, it doesn't matter if you start going front or start going in the back, just as long as you alternate between the two. Okay, so I'm going in the behind it and in front of it. Oh, and in front of it. And now I'm going to do one more, but I want to end. Once I do one more, I'm still going to go into that last stitch and place a standing half double, cut my yarn, and then I'm done. Okay, so we finished making our pockets, and I've made 2 of them already, and I've weaved in my ends on my pocket. So this is how my pocket is going to look. So I'm going to move one out the way, and I'm kind of going to turn my piece with the inside laying flat down, so I don't have to worry about going through both ends while placing my pocket on. Now with both of your pockets, you want them to be close to the edge. I always put my pockets about 1, 2, 3, 4 half doubles in. Okay, so there'll be 4 half doubles in, and it depends on where you want it. Do you want it at the bottom, or do you want it up a little bit? I'm gonna put mine up a little bit, and again I want to stay 1, 2, 3, and 4 half doubles in. So let me find my needles, well, my pins, and I'm going to pin this down right where I want it to be. And I want to give my top edge a little stretch. And I want to give my top edge a little stretch. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's going to go there. One, 2, 3, 4. Now the same place that I started here on the same row, I want to make sure I start this one on that same row on this side. And again, we want to give that top end a little stretch because we don't want our pockets to start to sag at the top later on after it relaxes more. And we want to make sure that this is even and it stops the same place. Now, however we place this pocket, we must place the other one on the other side. So if we are 4 half doubles in here, when we do the other side, we want to make sure that one starts 4 half doubles in. If we started on the, I've started on the second row of my gray, so on the other side, when I place my pocket down, I will start it on the second row of gray, and I will make sure I end it at the second row from the bottom. Okay, so however we place on here, we want to place the other one on in the same exact way. Now usually I take my yarn needle and I pick a color yarn, and I normally would sew this down with my yarn. I'm not going to do that because I want my stitches not to show on the inside of my sweater. I want my stitches to kind of be invisible. So instead of using my normal method, I am going to use regular thread. Now, because I'm using regular thread, I'm going to make sure that this is held down really, really tight. I'm going to probably double back and do it twice. And I want to get a rather large amount. Now, when we are using just our yarn, we're just going to tie off one end. We're not going to put the two strands together. But because I am using my thread, I want to make sure that I have two pieces together like we normally would do thread. So, and again, if this was yarn, I would only be tying one piece of the thread, the yarn, and doing it like that. So I'm not going to go over the whole pocket, but I'm going to show you certain methods that I use when putting down my pockets. One, I'm going to start from this end and work my way around. But the first thing I want to do is turn it over. And I want to fill out where my pocket begins, which is right here. And first things first, and I could tell by the pin, I can see the pin. I want to secure this on to just the sweater alone. So I want to make sure this is secure. So I'm going to make a knot there. And I'm going to push this through to the other side. But I want to make sure it comes through on the edge. So I know my thread is now locked onto the sweater. So now I'm going to work myself back up to the corner, the top part. And I can move this now. Now right here in this corner, as well as the corner here, I want to make sure it's really, really secure. So I'm going to work this way for a little bit at the top. To make sure my top is secure. And one more time. Okay, and now I'm going to start working down. Now I like to go down. Then I'm going to double back to before where I started. Pull it down. And then I'm going to double back to before where I started. And keep coming down. And I'm going to work this the same way if I was using my yarn. But because I'm using so many different colors, it was hard to pick one particular color. And because then that would have that color on it. If I picked the peach, if I picked the gray, then it would be gray all down the sides. So that's what made me decide to go with just using thread. That way, it's a nice blend and it looks like the pocket's just there. Looks like the pocket's just there and the top is nice and secure. And we're just going to go all the way down. If you want to work your corners the same way, putting extra strength in your corners, and go all the way along here. and then come all the way back up here. And that's just how we're going to add on our pockets. Nice and simple. So I'm not going to make you guys watch me put on a whole pocket. I just wanted to make sure you got the idea of how to place your pocket. Now, if you decide to put your pocket higher up or further over, however you decide to put your pocket on, or if you decide to do pockets at all, you know, I'm a pocket person. I need pockets. Okay, so yeah, that's that. And as you can see from the other side, looks totally invisible. It's invisible, so I like that look. So I'm just going to place this here for a second, and I'll finish doing my pockets. And let's look at the last thing, which is weaving in our ends. Okay, so what I have here is my sweater turned inside out. Okay, so this is the inside of my sweater. I only like to weave in ends on my sweaters on this side. So if I have strings that are on the other side, I would just take my yarn needle and push it through to pull it through to this side. Okay, so that's first off. Now, where we have all these lovely little joins, we dropped the peach and I picked up the gray. So where I have all these join areas, I like to make 2 knots. 1 and 2 before I weave in my ends there. And again, here I stopped the gray and picked up the peach. So I want to bring those together, and I'm going to pull them. Okay, don't worry about pulling too tight, but and make 2 knots there. So that's these 2, and then I'm going to come here where I ended one color and picked up another color, and I'm going to tie this as well into a knot once and then twice. And I do this because where we begin and end, there's really no security there that I like. So I want to make sure nothing's going to come apart on me. So I don't want to just weave in my ends. I'll tie knots before I start. Okay. Now, once I have that done, and of course we're just working on one of the arms, but anywhere where I changed over colors, I would do that when I have 2 color changes right next to each other, and I can tie them. Now, if I have one here and another, I'm not going to tie together something that is not where the join ends, where you drop one and pick up another. So when weaving in, you always, well, when you're using our yarn needle, and you want to stay within the color in which you have on your yarn needle. So I'm just going to go in once and go in again, and I'm just weaving it in back and forth in one particular space till I feel as though it's secure. And I give it a little tug. And once I have that done, I'm going to come in and cut my yarn at the base. So I'll do another one. Let's do this gray. Gonna add our gray to our yarn needle, and I'm just gonna work it in one place, come down, and again you're going to do that as many times as you feel as though it's secure. And then you're going to cut it at the base. So that's weaving in. So you're going to do that all over. Again, I only like to weave in on my sweaters on this side. So if you have any pieces, just bring them through to this side. And now like this, I have one here and one here. I would not bring that together. They're totally separate. We're going to work those in separately. And back again, and I'm good with that. So that's it with the weaving in. I'm going to do the rest of my piece, weaving this in, and finish my pockets, and let's try it. Okay, everybody, so I hope that you guys enjoyed this tutorial. We have all the sizes there, so I hope you were able to get your size and work it up right along with me. Look for my next conversation on the corner. We'll be discussing colors and color combinations. I made this sweater in quite a few different colors, and I'm going to break down why I picked the colors. So maybe that'll help some of our friends out there who like the topic of color and need more help picking out colors and blending them together. But as I always say, sometimes we just play with colors. So you guys follow me on all my social media sites. I hope to see you in the comment section. And until next time, see you later.